I'm shining on my own. It's money, got it on my own. Got a couple 100,000 in a hair tie. Only I just had to get my bread right. Locked up in the studio like at night. They said.
What up? We are here for episode 3 of Chalk Dirty to Me. I was cracking up a little there because I just recorded like half of the video and accidentally like stopped recording it looking for a stat that I saw the other day that I still don't have because I couldn't find it. But so it's gonna be a shorter episode this week. It is the Arnold Palmer this week, not the players. I was referring to the players last week's show. For this week, it's next week. I apologize for that. Just that hyped for the players. Odds are already out for the players. Gooch 100-1. It's my first bet. I mentioned that last show. I think his odds are going to move down significantly after this week. And I just, his top 5 there last year, 100-1. I'm not saying he's the most likely guy to win, but incredible value there, I feel, for next week. So Honda was last week. Quickly, let's go through that. The Honda last week, Sepp Straka pulled it out. Didn't have Sepp Straka, sadly. Berger collapsed. I had him as my one-and-done pick. I played him in some lineups last week, which I was happy about. He wasn't in my best lineups, and I didn't have him in any 6-for-6 lineups. So wait, let me just double-check that. So I didn't have him in any 6-for-6 lineup. So him collapsing wasn't the end-all be-all of me last week at the Honda. My best lineup, and this won about $200, I think, in the pitch and putt for $250K. Noren, Horschel, Mitchell, Ryder, Kirk, and Hubbard. Shout out to Pat James, my new boy on Twitter, for the Hubbard pick. Sold me on him. Great. I asked him for his favorite dark horse this week. He gave me Hubbard. Played him in a few great lineups. And I greatly appreciate that information. So it's always fun talking to some people on Twitter and seeing who they like and listening to their stuff and seeing where the overlap is and then seeing what actually happens when things are rolled out on Thursday. So Pat gave me some great insight on Thursday. Thanks again, Pat. Sorry to Pat for my Vince Whaley recommendation. I asked Pat again who his dark horse was. He gave me Hubbard. I gave him Vince Whaley. Vince Whaley was probably my worst play of last week. He was the guy in all of the Burger lineups that I had that were 5-for-6. And yeah, I liked him last week as a long shot, as like a 1% ownership, as a total leverage play, and he just didn't really show up. He was +5, I think, in the first round. He got it to like maybe even 2. I think he got it to like where he needed to be, and then bogeyed back like 3 holes and finished at +5, missed the cut. So tough for me. Apologies to Pat. And so I mean, definitely I'd say Whaley was the worst play last week on my end. I'd say best play, Noren, Ryder, Kirk, Hubbard, Mitchell. Played a lot of Mitchell. I like Mitchell again this week. Weiss burnt me, but I wasn't like pissed about it because he wasn't in like any huge lineups. I had Svensson. Svensson was in some very good lineups. Thank you, Svensson. That was a guy I was on, and another guy actually Pat mentioned as well. So wonder how Pat did last week. I don't think he had Straka. Not a lot of people did, but Oosthuizen, he was pretty good from a scoring perspective, but yeah, I mean, he was just I think he led the field in birdies, but I think he finished +2, so finished like 35th, so not that great. But look, I like playing Louis. He's pretty consistent. You kind of know what you're going to get with him. He started off like shit last week, and the fact that he finished 30th is crazy if you watch the tournament. I think he was at like +7 in his second round and birdied 6 holes on the back nine to make the cut. So, Louis, pretty valiant effort from him, and it'll be interesting to watch him at the Players next week, see where his pricing is. But let's move on. Let's move on. Oh, I played Buckley too. That was a shitty play, and I played Woodland now. So and Pan. Sorry, I forgot to read down the list. So 2 of those 3 guys played pretty well. The other guy didn't. Woodland I love Woodland. Woodland is like one of my knights in shining armor because he was in one of my mega profit lineups. So always have a place in my heart for him. But yeah, let's move on from Honda. Let's move on from Honda, and let's move on from Honda to the Arnold Palmer Classic at Bay Hill. We're at Bay Hill this week. Another brute of a course. 7,400 yards, par 72, 7,500 average green size. Key statistics here: approach to green off the tee, specifically driving distance here. Approach from 200 plus. I don't know if I just said that or not. 25% of the approach shots this week will come from 200 yards or plus. So incredible. We always weigh approach heavily, weigh it even heavier this week. What I did is I weighed 25% weighted approach, 5% par 3 scoring, and 10% from 200 plus. That's how much I think 200 plus means this week. So I'll show you guys what those results were after we finish talking through the course here. The winning scores here, if the wind doesn't blow, I'm going to say the winning score is -12. And if the wind doesn't blow, I'm going to say the cut is +2. I think there's a chance the wind blows on the weekend as well. So I'm going to give 2 hypotheticals here. 12 under and 2 over is the cut. I think 2 over will be the cut either way. I think 2 over will be the cut either way. I looked at the weather Thursday and Friday. It doesn't look that bad to me. Saturday and Sunday do. So that's why I think that the cut will be +2 regardless. I could see the winning score being -12. I could see the winning score being -7. I think it's anywhere. I think it's either -7 if the wind blows or -12 if it doesn't on the weekend. So for whatever that's worth, I try to base things off of narratives, as I always say. My narrative is going to be that this course is going to play hard regardless of whether the wind blows or not. It'll play extremely harder if the wind blows. It will play like a U.S. Open if the wind blows. Arnie might not want it to play like a U.S. Open, but I'm telling you, if the wind blows, it will play like the U.S. Open, condition-wise. And, that, again, Hatton -4. He won at -4 one year, and it was crazy conditions. Again, the past couple of years, it's been like -12, -11, -10, the winning score. So anywhere in that range. I think Rory won one year at -18. He had like a historic, I think it's the most strokes gained putting in a single round ever since the ShotLink era. But I could be wrong there. But I think if it's not the most, it's up there. So those are the key statistics this week. What I did with my model. Here, I went 10% off the tee, 25% strokes gained weighted approach, 5% around the green, 5% tee to green, 5% putting. All of those were weighted, 5 on par 3 scoring, 5 on par 5 scoring, 10 on driving distance, 5 on driving accuracy, 5 on scrambling, 5 on sand saves, and 15 on approach from 200 plus. I ran that like I do every week. And if it's first time listening, that is for the last round, the last 4 rounds, the last 8 rounds, the last 24 rounds, and the last 48 rounds. I run a near term. I then come up with a near term best model play, a long term best model play, and a best model play for the entire time period. Might make me sound insane, but I think it's an incredible way to look at things, and I think it's an incredible way to see which way some of these golfers are trending. I think sometimes looking at it just once might just like not tell the whole story. You could look at it in the past 24 rounds, and you could have somebody like Matt Wolff is the perfect example. If you looked at the past 48 rounds, actually, let's pull him up. Let's see where he is. Matt Wolff. I bet you. And he doesn't even model out that well here, but either way. But his last round, he lost 2.03 approaches on approach. He's 78th in. He models out here 60th for the last 50 rounds. If you're just looking at the past 50 rounds, you might say, oh, he finished 60th here. He plays well in the U.S. Open. Maybe I should play him. He had one of the worst performances of his life, and I'm not trying to be hard on Matt Wolff. I actually really like Matt Wolff. I hope he gets it all together, but he looks lost right now, and I'm not going to play a guy who looks lost out there on a course that could be a brute, and is more likely to be a brute than it's not this week with, again, what I think will be windy conditions on Saturday and Sunday. So in Wolff's last, he's lost in his last 48, 24, 12, 8, 4, and last round. He's lost across the board in approach. He's an incredible par 5 scorer. I'm not going to play Wolff this week. Sorry for even starting the show with talking about Matt Wolff. That was disgusting on my part. Let me move to the model results and who the model likes. Rahm, number 1. Zalatoris, number 2. Hideki, 3. Hovland, 4. Scheffler, 5. Sungjae, 6. Casey, 7. Rory, 8. Luke List, 9. Yikes. Cameron Tringale, 10. Leishman, 11. Great course history as well. Cameron Young, 12. Love Cameron Young this week. I hope he's not chalky. Wouldn't surprise me if he is. This is like a course where driving distance matters. It's a course where approach matters. And the last 8 rounds, I've been watching him in the past 2 tournaments, and that's his game. Tee to green. Cameron Young, last round gained a full shot, 1.1 shot. Last 4 rounds gained 0.4. Last 8 rounds gained 1.1 on the field. This is weighted again. Last 12, 0.58, 0.518. He's been gaining across the board in those last 48. So and by each bracket, you love to see consistency like that. He models out 21 for 48, 36 for the last 24, 14 for the last 12, 10th for the last 8, 19th for the last 4, and 9th for the last 1. I mean, if he's below 10%, I'm probably going to play him this week. He hasn't played here before. That hasn't seemed to really affect this guy. He's just on a fucking run. Like, he's playing really well. And sometimes I think it's that simple. He could burn me this week. But again, I like Cam Young this week. So Laird, love Laird. I'm a huge Laird guy. The problem is I think people are on to Laird now for this week. He models out incredibly well, a flat line model as well, which I love to see. And what I mean by that is his last round, 26. His last 4, 12th. His last 8th, 20th. His last 12, 15. His last 24, 24. His last 48, 23rd. He's very right here right now. What does that mean? It just means he's playing good golf. Approach in his last 1, 0.5. Approach in his last 4, gained on the field, weighted, 1.24. Approach his last 8, gained, 0.224. 0.4835, 0.31, 431, 0.29 across the board gainage. Again, you rarely see that when you break stuff down like this. And I love to see stuff like that when I break stuff down like this. It means the guy, he's maybe he hasn't won a tournament, but he's playing well. If that's not a sign the guy is playing well, I don't know what is. So parlay that with the fact that Laird has finished 43rd, 26th, and 49th here, and is coming off a 46th, 14th, and 39th at the Genesis. I like it. I like it at 7,000. I think he'll be below 5%. If he's more than that, I probably won't be able to get to him. Actually, we'll see. We'll see. I turned away some bad plays last week that weren't bad plays, but I like Laird this week. It's one of those things that I say, he's a guy, I think it's just, he's popping to me. Hatton. I think he is going to be a good leverage play this week. I could be totally wrong, but I think most people Hatton is surrounded by Zalatoris, who I'm going to play and is going to be chalky. Models out 3-4-2-3-5-4 in my time periods. Another one, flatliner. We love it. We love flatliners from these numbers. Look at these approach. In his last 1.07. In his last 4, 1.83. In his last 8, 2.195. Last 12, 1.74. He has to put together a putting week at some point, a full putting week. And we know what his weakness is. And it's not necessarily his long putts. He's a pretty good lag putter, but he's like 5 to 10 foot putts are not great. However, he plays in tough courses incredibly well. I think he's only played here once. He finished 10th. All right? Yeah, he finished 10th. 6th at the Amex, 2nd at the Farmers, 26th at the Genesis. He's been putting on a ball striking clinic, and he's just a guy I'm going to go to regardless of if he's chalky or not. Sungjae will depend on ownership. 9,900, definitely somebody to consider. He models out well. He's played here very well. Third, 21st. He's 11th, 6th, 33rd, 100th. He played pretty well in the second round at Honda, though, even though he missed the cut. So maybe Sungjae. Scheffler versus Matsuyama is going to be on ownership. That's going to come down to ownership. Wow, Scheffler's higher price than him. It's got to be like a recency bias type of thing. Scheffler's played here once. He's finished 15th. Hideki's played here a lot. He's finished 45th, 49th, 33rd, 56th, 18th. What it comes down to is Scotty Scheffler a better golfer than Hideki Matsuyama? If you believe that, play Scotty Scheffler. If you don't believe that, play Hideki Matsuyama. I think Hideki, regardless of what you think, is going to be less owned. And I mean, his approach. Ooh. He had a pretty brutal. Where did he finish last? 39th at the Genesis. Didn't really have a great approach week at the Genesis. He must have done some other things really well. Interesting. But he kind of got it back. I mean, he's losing in his last last 4, but then his last 8 he's getting 0.71, and his last 12 0.72. And he's won twice already this year, and he's looked incredible. Again, that's going to depend on ownership. Hovland, I love Hovland, and the 2 guys I'm most emotionally attached to, or 3 guys probably, are Morikawa, Hovland, and Brooks. Are my 3 guys. And I like all these guys, but those guys, they have a special place in my heart. Morikawa, look at this. Shout out to Morikawa, Harding Park. We commemorated that. We commemorated that W. That was the biggest outright I've ever hit. So we commemorated that one. I love Vic, man. I love Vic and I love Colin. And from not playing them perspective, it's harder for me not to play both those guys than it is for me to not play Brooks. I play Brooks at courses I think he's going to play well at, and I think people overthink that sometimes. I think it's easier to get Brooks right than people think it is. I say that and watch that come back to bite me in the ass hard. But you play Brooks at courses he's had success at, or courses that are brutes. Though that's when you play Brooks, and if it's a major, you play him every time. So again, some of this will depend on ownership. Let's go a little lower though. Hatton, Fitzpatrick. I really like Fitzpatrick this week. 9,200. Wow. So he was sick recently with like a stomach bug. It was non-COVID. I think that might be affecting his pricing slightly. And his finishes here are 13th, 100th, 2nd, 9th, 10th. His last two tournaments he's played in, he's finished 6th and 10th in at Pebble Beach and Waste Management. He has been killing the ball tee to green. 2.6 approach last round. 1.43 gain last 4. 0.863 last 8. 0.575 last 12. 0.28 gaining across the board again. Man, it's just hard to turn away guys with approach numbers like that. Seems like Fitzpatrick, the tougher the course, the better he plays. Yeah, we're playing a lot of Fitzpatrick this week. Leishman, Scott, Horschel, Burns. This is the most interesting range right here. I'm telling you, it's not even like a single from Leishman at 91, Scott at 90, Horschel at 89, Burns at 88, Homa at 87, Gooch at 86, 100. This is all in thousands that is, or hundreds that is. Kokrak 84, Henley 85. I don't know if I said that. Casey 83. I guess that interest it's not like good interest either. It's like I think there could be some good leverage plays though. Like Billy Ho was so chalky last week. In theory, if you liked Billy Ho last week, you should like Billy Ho this week. It's a very similar setup. He has very similar course history here. He's finished 13th, 54th, 50th, 36th, 100th in his last 5. He's 11th at Farmers, 6th at Waste Management, and 16th last week at Honda. He's cheaper this week. It's a better field this week, but it's in Florida. It's on Bermuda greens. He couldn't make, I don't know what his stats were, couldn't make a goddamn thing on the green last week. Could not buy a putt. So, again, that's why I think Horschel is interesting, is because of how chalky he was last week, and he finished 16th. So, what's the narrative going to be? Play him again this week? Or people are just going to be like, I don't want to play fucking Billy Ho. I don't think people like playing Billy Ho. I don't mind him if his ownership is going to be, his ownership is going to be down because he finished 16th last week and a lot of people played him last week. Be interesting to think about going back to him. He didn't burn. Did he burn people? I think he was in maybe not the optimal lineup, but the lineup that won all of the cash on DraftKings in the $1 million pitch and putt. So sometimes there's a difference between optimal lineup and winning lineup, and that's something very important to understand, especially depending on what competitions you're entering here. Sometimes it doesn't take the optimal lineup. Obviously, you want the optimal lineup, but sometimes, again, you do not need the optimal lineup. You just need the one that scores the most points. And that's important to, again, remember, depending on what competition you're in. I think you're building more towards an optimal lineup if you're playing in a competition like I am, where it was last week anyway, although I did do a few single entries as well, where I use slightly different strategies, you're going to need to have leverage somewhere. And that is what I'm starting to, I think, get a better understanding of. But I haven't. I think if I played Lowry last week, it would have been interesting to see where I almost played the full strategy of leverage last week and I didn't. But he was the one guy. Him and Mitchell I played. Mitchell I wasn't worried about his chalk at all. He's just been murdering the ball tee to green. And he's 8,100 this week. And he finished, 9th last week? And he's got better. Minus the win, he's finished 5th and 6th here in the past 3 years. He's made the cut 3 straight years here. He's finished 12th, 10th, 9th in his last 3 starts. He's nailing the ball tee to green. His best surface, Bermuda. He hits the ball a mile. Driving distance is very important here, but off the tee more generally. And Keith Mitchell is one of the best drivers of the ball, both distance and accuracy. I'm in love. Oh, this is so fucked. I'm in love with these 5 names, and they're all right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 5 names are all right next to each other. Kokrak, Casey, Mitchell, Garcia, and Tringale. And why I'm in love with all of those guys is they're such consistent players. They're such long and straight guys. Oh my God. Kyle likes the 8Ks again. I don't know if I'll get to Gooch. I think a lot of I want Gooch at the Players next week. So I almost don't know what I'm rooting for this week. His last time out, he burned a lot of people because he was pretty chalky. He's made me a lot of money in these lineups, and I'm not going to go to Gooch. I think he might not be chalky this week. I think people might be afraid. He might be a little out of sight, out of mind this week, especially with the names around him. People love playing Russ Henley. People love playing Paul Casey. People love playing Max Homa. So I actually like Max Homa this week. Fuck. Wow, those are some interesting numbers. Spike. I hate seeing spikes. But that's part of the game. So he's consistent 32, 28, 11, 12, 8 to the last 4. And then his last round, he was 64 by the model. Oh, he lost 2 strokes on approach his last round. That's the type of stuff that that's why we break it down this way, though, man. That was at Genesis. So he lost 2.4 strokes at Genesis on Sunday and finished 10th. Wow. He's going to have to be. He's a great par 3 player, though, right? Not recently. I think typically he is. 61 from approach, 200 plus, 10th par 5 scoring, 108th par 3 scoring. He's got good history here. 10th and 24th in the 2 showings he's had. 2 top 15s his last 2. I could get to Homa. He could be popular, though. I mean, if you want the leverage play of the week, I think it's one of these 2 guys. And I can't tell you which one of them. Well, I can tell you who I think will be less of a leverage play and probably more likely to do well, and that's Leishman. So Leishman has incredible tournament history, slight spike in his last round, but very consistent modeling out of all the other rounds. But his last round, again, lost a ton of strokes on approach in his last round, which terrifies me. He finished 15th. That was at Waste Management, 16th at Farmers. He's won here before. He's finished 2nd here before. He's finished 7th here before, 23rd. Wow. Fuck. Am I talking myself into some mock Leishman? If it gets windy, too... What's his off the tee look like? Now I'm interested in Mark Leishman. Off the tee. Leash. Let's see. Where my dog Leash at? Gained in his last one. All I need to see is him gaining off the tee in his last 4, and I'm probably in. He's losing off the tee, but only slightly. A ton of good approach numbers, but that last thing spike. He's kind of a like, I mean, he kind of runs really hot and cold. Like even times he finishes really well. Like he's a great Sunday guy. Like he comes strong on Sundays. All right, I'm gonna mark down Leishman. So Leishman is the first guy I was gonna say is a potentially great leverage play, and then I don't know if I'm as likely to get to this guy, even though I love him. Sam Burns. Sam Burns is 8,800. Sam Burns has missed 2 straight cuts. Wow. 4 straight cuts. No, 3 straight cuts. And he was cut here last year. He's missed 3 straight cuts, cut here last year, 36, 54, 49 in his 3 showings. It's on Bermuda. He putts well. It's his best surface. His approach numbers are god-awful. I mean, the thing about Burns is I just think he's got so much talent, and it's just a matter. That's just a total leverage play. That's you saying Burns is going to click this week. But, I can't see a lot of people playing him because of how he's been playing. That's a low price for Burns, 8,800. But that will be dependent on ownership. Let's go for a little further down. Woodland and McNeely I have highlighted. Bezadenhout I have highlighted. List. Cameron Young, we already talked about. Kirk. EVR. Hoagie. Bradley. Glover. Westwood. Laird. Thigala. That's who I've put on my short list in the 7K range. Again, I won't play all of those guys. This will be dependent on ownership, but that's kind of who I like. Those are guys again, think about the narrative. The narrative this week I think is very similar to last week. It's going to play tough. It's going to play long. If it gets windy, it's going to be a carnage. And again, I'm thinking minus 12 is the winning score if the wind doesn't blow. I see it more being at minus 7, and I think the cut will be plus 2. I think the cut will be plus 2. So that is what I will be going with this week. Let's quickly look at the 6K range. Aaron Weiss, Andrew Putnam. These are guys who have highlighted. Andrew Weiss, Aaron Putnam, Fratelli, Higo, Ryder, Svensson, Hostler, Perez, Hodges, Pendrith, Willett, Swafford, Hodgegard, Minwoo Lee. God, I love golf so much. There's so many great names. I really just want to think Hayden Buckley is a good golfer, but I don't think I can lose any more money on him, so I'm not highlighting him. Oh, guy I like as a super leverage play this week. I like to do one of these each week, and this was a miss last week with Vince Whaley. Sean O'Hare. Yeah, don't laugh at me. Sean O'Hare. He's gaining or hasn't lost approach in his last 12 rounds. 59th, last one, 69th, 64, 61 in the model. Why I like him? He's been playing incredibly well on the Korn Ferry Tour. He played incredibly well at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, finished 16th. He's finished I think in the top 10 3 times. Here, 7th. He's finished 7th here once, but I think if you look back further, let me double check that. Now that I've said it, I need to double check it or else I'm going to lose my mind. Sean O'Hara. Seventh cut, 36, 29th, 10th, 40th, 29th cut, 21st, 2nd, 3rd. I mean, that's far back. Far back. Sean O'Hara. I have Sean O'Hara's autograph as well right here. Also a weird random thing. See that? Sean O'Hara. Happened to sign my flag in ball because Sean, I think he was supposed to be a really good golfer. That's what my dad told me. I don't think he, but I like Sean O'Hara regardless. I like him this week just because he's playing well and he's played here well and he's cheap and I don't think people will play him. So he's kind of my mega leverage play potentially this week. And I don't necessarily put that guy in like all my lineups. So don't think about it that way. I'm doing 25 pretty high stake lineups this week. I'm doing a few fantasy World Golf Championship qualifiers. So we'll see if I can get some more free tickets this week, into some more competitions. I mean, that's going to be the best of the best we're going against this week, so I'm really excited. I really like going against the best, and I know that sounds super lame, but like I just like the competitive aspect of daily fantasy sports is why I like it so much. And like I love giving out like who I like and what I see with the course and all of that good stuff. But at the same time, I'm trying to beat every single person that wants to listen to this podcast or not. So I hope you take my advice, and I hope you come in second place, or third or fourth, depending on how many lineups I'm playing. But again, I've had success with daily fantasy since I've started doing it. I've been doing it for a year now, and I think I've been doing. I mean, the returns I've had are incredible so far. So hopefully we'll continue to do that. But yeah, I mean, we'll see here. We'll see what happens here this week. It's gonna be interesting. Sorry, I lost my train of thought while I was going through the rest of the 6K range. I said Danny Willett and Pendrith. I think Pendrith. I hope. This stuff is all going to depend on ownership. I'm going to play Laird. Okay, I like saying this, even though this is the most valuable, I think, stuff I give out, or what I like to think the most valuable stuff I give out is because I'm going to tell you right now, it's valuable if it works. If it not, then I guess fuck me. I'm not that smart. Last week, I think my picks were great, though. So if you listened, I think you got some good insight last week. I think we've gotten some good insight the last 2 weeks, honestly. So always trying to give good insight, regardless of if we hit the winner itself or not. But yeah, so the guys I will play regardless of ownership. And again, this is what I think. This is how I see the board, right? So I mean, if you guys trust in the process and the numbers and the models that I'm putting together here, you should trust in some of this stuff. So this isn't even based off of the model. Let me start by saying that Rory is being played this week. He's probably going to be my highest owned golfer, and I'm probably not going to overthink this one. So Rory is going to be my start. Zalatoris, Hatton, Fitzpatrick, and Scott. Paul Casey, Keith Mitchell, Aaron Weiss, and who's the last guy I want to give out here? I already said Sean O'Hare, so Sean O'Hare is the last guy I'll say. I will probably play. He's going to be not played in a lot of lineups, just as a heads up. I'm going to probably do 25. I might put him in 5. But I'll use him to put Rory with somebody else up top. I haven't decided who that is yet. I love 9K range from... Love the 9K range as a whole this week. I think that's the best range other than the top. Obviously, it's easy to say the top, though. And it's easy to say 9K is the second best if you're not counting. But some certain weeks, I think. The other week, I thought 8K was. So I like the 9s a lot this week. I don't like the top 8s that much this week, but I like the low 8s this week. I don't like the top 7s this week, but I like the mid 7s this week. And I think you have to go to a 6K guy like every week. I just think if you're not going to a 6K guy, you're not thinking enough outside of the box. And look, I mean, there's lineups that have won competitions without 6K guys. I'm 100% sure of it. So let me correct my statement here. If you're entering 70,000 person competition like I will be entering, you're gonna want to consider that. If it's a smaller comp, maybe not as much. So yeah. So again, it's gonna depend. It's gonna be Rory. I'm going to probably do Rory, Zalatoris, Hatton stack. Rory, Zalatoris, Fitzpatrick stack. Rory, Zalatoris, Scott, Rory. And yeah, I'll probably just do every possible combo there. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got. I mean, look, I think you're going to want just guys who are going to keep it out of trouble, similar to last week. You're going to want guys who are long and straight. I know that's easier said than done. Do you play John Rahm? Do you fade John Rahm? That's always a good question. He models out here the best. He always does, so, and he always will. So, you know, the stat I saw about John Rahm is like something like, or it's not specifically about John Rahm, but the world number 1 has not won a golf tournament as world number 1 in like 3 years or something crazy like that. And that's not an incentive to just keep not betting John Rahm. I mean, he's such a good golfer. There's a reason he's the number 1 golfer in the world. And like, he hasn't won yet this year. He's probably going to win soon. But it's also something to like just keep in mind, because sometimes I look at this stuff and I'm like, oh, well, I have to play this guy. You don't have to play anybody. That's what's so cool about daily fantasy is everything's unique and anything can happen. So yes, John Rahm's the best golfer in the world, but look at last week. You had an 141 golfer win the tournament and chase down a guy who had a 5-stroke lead, who looked like invincible up until maybe the 18th hole on Saturday. So, you know, all things to consider again for this week. I think I'm rambling on enough now. Lost my train of thought a little, but again, long, straight, brute course. Guys who are brutes, look for guys who hit well out of the rough. If they get into the rough, if they get into trouble, are they able to get out of trouble? What are they doing from 200 plus? Are they scoring well on par 3s? Are they able to score on par 5s? That's going to be a huge thing this week. Is those par 5s and those par 3s. Par 5s to score on, par 3s to hold on, meaning that the par 3s are going to be the really tough holes. Par 5s are going to be the holes that these guys have to go after like every week, but the 4 par 5s are some of the easier scoring holes on this course, and just where these guys are going to have to get after it. One and done. Rory. Yeah. One and done is going to be Rory this week. I can't wait until it comes out and he's the chalkiest guy. But, like, this is a tournament where it makes sense for Rory to be the chalkiest guy, in my opinion. And if he's not, lock him in. And again, I think for me, I'm playing him either way. I have the Sing with Rory. He plays well at Rory courses. History speaks for himself here. Yeah, so keep an eye out for the weather on Saturday and Sunday, just what that's looking like, and Thursday and Friday leading up to the event, if any of that changes. And yeah, feel free to send me your guys' favorite plays this week. I always get the 7Ks wrong, so feel free to send me your favorite 7Ks or 6Ks. Either or. Feel free to send me those. And yeah, we'll be back next week for the players. Cheers.